Hey, everyone, and welcome back to the Conversion Bible, this show where, well, we kind of try to crack the code on better Shopify sales, right?
Yeah, you could say that.
And today's deep dive is even better because it's powered by, get this, Growth Suite.
Growth Suite.
That Shopify app. Have you heard of it?
Maybe.
It helps you run these really smart discount campaigns.
Smart discounts, yeah.
And honestly, you can even test it out, like totally free on your Shopify store.
No way.
Just head over to the Shopify App Store.
Nice.
But for now, let's get into it. Today, we're diving deep into the world of scarcity.
Scarcity.
And how you can use it, all those tactics to boost conversions.
Exactly. And we're not just talking about slapping a limited time offer banner on everything.
No.
We're going way deeper than that. We're going to break down the psychology.
Yeah, the why.
The why, behind why these tactics actually work. So you can use them strategically and authentically.
I love that because honestly, I've totally fallen for those tactics myself, probably more times than I care to admit.
Yeah, me too.
So there's definitely something powerful at play here.
Absolutely. There are some really fundamental psychological principles, that are at work when we perceive something as scarce.
Mm-hmm.
It changes how we value it and how quickly we're willing to actually make a decision about it.
Okay, let's unpack that. I mean, where do we even begin? What's the first layer of this scarcity onion?
Well, one of the, kind of most basic principles is that scarcity increases perceived value, right?
Okay, yeah.
When something is hard to get, we automatically assume it must be, more desirable.
Mm-hmm.
Think about it. Would you be as excited about a pair of sneakers if everyone could easily get them?
Definitely not. No. It's like those limited edition releases,
Right.
The ones that sneakerheads just go crazy for.
Yeah.
The harder they are to get, the more everyone wants them.
Exactly. And this principle, it plays out in all sorts of ways, not just with, hyped up products.
Oh, yeah.
Think about a product that gets rave reviews but has very limited stock.
Right.
That scarcity reinforces this idea that it's a great product.
Mm-hmm.
And it creates this fear of missing out.
Oh, FOMO.
FOMO.
The bane of my existence, especially when I'm scrolling through Instagram and see everyone else, snagging those amazing deals.
Oh, yeah.
I know it's a tactic, but it works.
It does.
Yeah.
Because FOMO triggers this anxiety, right?
Right.
That we can quickly resolve by simply buying the thing. Oh. It's a really powerful motivator. And then there's this other fascinating principle called it's called the reactance principle.
Reactance principle.
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds kind of intriguing. Tell me more.
It's basically this idea that, when we feel like our freedom to choose is being restricted.
Okay.
We want that thing even more.
Okay.
So if a product is about to sell out or a deal is ending soon, that perceived restriction can make us act impulsively.
So it's not just we want what others have.
Right.
It's that we don't want to be told we can't have something.
Yeah.
We want the freedom to choose, even if that means choosing to buy something we might not considered otherwise.
Exactly. And all of this is happening on a subconscious level.
Right.
We might not even realize these psychological, mechanisms are at play, but they have a powerful effect on our behavior.
Okay, so we've got increased perceived value, we've got FOMO, and this reactance principle, all kind of pushing us towards making that purchase.
Yeah.
Is there anything else we should know about how scarcity affects our, decision making?
Well, there's also the element of urgency,
right,
which accelerates our decision-making process, right?
Mm.
Scarcity, it often creates a sense of urgency, prompting us to act quickly before we miss out. Instead of carefully weighing all our options, we're driven by that buy now or regret it later feeling.
That makes so much sense, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like that little voice in the back of your head saying, if you don't buy it now, it might be gone tomorrow.
Yeah.
And suddenly, you're checking out before you've even had a chance to think it through.
Precisely. Scarcity and urgency, they work together to kind of shift us, from thinking to doing.
Right.
And what's really interesting is that these principles not only influence whether we buy something, but also how much we're willing to pay.
Really? So we might actually pay more for something just because it's scarce.
Yeah.
That seems counterintuitive.
It might, but it's backed by research.
Interesting.
When something is scarce, it becomes more like exclusive.
Right.
And we perceive it as having a higher value.
Okay.
We're often willing to pay a premium, for that sense of exclusivity, even if the product itself is essentially the same.
Wow, that's fascinating. It's like that feeling of winning, when you manage to snag a limited edition item before anyone else.
Exactly. And that feeling of competition, of wanting to win the item,
Yeah.
it can be a powerful driver of sales.
For sure.
So we've got all these psychological forces at play.
Yeah.
Increased perceived value, fear of missing out, the reactance principle, and a heightened sense of urgency,
Right.
all pushing us towards making a purchase.
Mm.
It's no wonder that these scarcity tactics, can be so effective.
Yeah. It's all starting to make sense now. But I think it's important to note that this doesn't mean like we should be tricking our customers
Oh, of course not.
or creating, fake scarcity.
No.
It's about using these principles ethically and authentically.
Absolutely. Transparency and authenticity are crucial. We'll dive deeper into ethical considerations a little bit later on.
Okay.
But for now, let's move on to the more practical tactics.
Yeah, let's get to the good stuff.
How can our listeners actually use this understanding of scarcity to increase sales in their Shopify stores?
Yes. What are some of the most effective ways to implement these principles in a way that feels genuine and helpful to our customers?
Well, there are several kind of proven tactics that work like a charm.
Okay.
Let's start with one of the most, popular limited time offers.
Okay, limited time offers. We see those everywhere. But how do we make them truly effective? What are the key considerations?
The key is to create this sense of urgency that feels genuine.
Right.
And motivates people to act without, feeling pressured.
Mm-hmm.
Think about the messaging, the design, and the overall customer experience.
Okay, I'm starting to see how all of this comes together now.
Oh, right.
It's not just about slapping a countdown timer on a product page.
Right.
It's about understanding the psychology behind why people respond to these tactics.
Yes.
And then using that knowledge to create a strategic and authentic approach.
Exactly. And when it comes to limited time offers, one of the first things to consider is the type of offer you're going to run.
Okay, so what are some of the different types of limited time offers that work well for Shopify stores?
Well, there are several options, each with its own, advantages.
Right.
You've got your classic flash sale, which is a short, intense burst of discounts that lasts for maybe 24 to 48 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have, your seasonal campaigns, which offer limited collections that naturally expire,
Right.
like a summer collection or holiday themed items.
Okay, yeah.
And of course, you've got those weekend specials that create a recurring sense of, excitement and encourage those weekend shopping habits.
So many options. It's like choosing your weapon of choice for driving conversions.
Exactly. And once you've chosen the type of offer, you need to think about the messaging, right?
Yeah.
How are you going to communicate the limited time nature of the offer in a way that's clear, compelling, and authentic?
Right, because no one wants to feel like they're being tricked or
No.
It has to feel genuine.
Absolutely. And that's where things like countdown timers and limited stock indicators can come into play.
Ah, yes. The visual cues
Yes.
that really drive home that feeling of urgency.
Exactly. But before we dive into those specific tactics, I think it's important to touch on one more psychological principle
Okay.
that can make your limited time offers even more effective.
Okay, I'm listening.
It's called loss aversion.
Loss aversion.
Yeah.
I've never heard of that one. Tell me more.
Well, loss aversion is this idea that we feel the pain of a loss more strongly than we feel the pleasure of an equivalent gain.
Interesting.
So in the context of scarcity, we're more motivated to avoid missing out on a deal than we are to simply, get a good price.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
It's like that feeling of regret when you miss a sale or a limited edition product.
Yeah.
It stings more than the joy you would have felt if you had gotten it.
Exactly. So when you're crafting your limited time offer messaging, think about how you can frame it in terms of what your customers stand to lose if they don't act now.
That's a great tip. It's all about, tapping into those underlying psychological motivators.
Yes.
Okay, so we've covered the different types of limited time offers and the importance of crafting, a compelling and authentic messaging.
Yeah.
Now let's get into the nitty-gritty of those visual cues.
Yes.
Countdown timers and limited stock indicators.
Absolutely. These are powerful tools for visually reinforcing that sense of urgency and encouraging quick action.
Perfect. So where do we begin? Where should we be placing these elements for maximum impact?
Think about where the purchase decision happens,
Right. Yeah.
right near the add to cart button.
Yeah.
That's prime real estate for your countdown timers and your low stock indicators. You want those visual cues to be like front and center, right?
Right.
As customers are about to make their decision.
Got to keep it, above the fold, as they say.
Yes.
And what about the design of these elements? Are there any best practices for making them, stand out without feeling too intrusive or overwhelming?
Absolutely. Color psychology plays a big role here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Reds and oranges, they're known to evoke a sense of urgency.
Right.
And can help your timers and your indicators kind of like pop visually.
Right.
You also want to make sure there's good contrast so they stand out against the rest of your, page design.
Makes sense.
Oh.
Anything else we should consider?
Think about adding like subtle motion,
Okay.
like a ticking clock animation
Oh, really?
to draw the eye and emphasize that, passing time. And you can use, icons like clocks or flames or exclamation points to reinforce that urgency message.
Great tips. But I meant you still want to keep everything in line with, with your brand's overall aesthetic, right?
Absolutely. You don't want your urgency elements to feel like jarring or out of place.
Right.
A luxury brand might opt for, a sleek and understated countdown timer, while a brand targeting a younger audience might go for something bold and playful.
Sure, yeah.
It's all about aligning your design choices with your brand identity and your target audience.
Okay, so we've covered placement and design.
Mm-hmm.
What about the actual words we use? Are there any power phrases that can really ramp up that sense of urgency?
Definitely. You want to be clear, concise, and compelling, right?
Mm.
Phrases like limited time offer ends tonight.
Okay.
Or only 5 left at this price can really grab attention.
Yeah.
And for shipping cutoffs, you could use something like order in the next 3 hours for next day delivery.
Wow. Yeah, I can practically hear the shoppers clicking add to cart already.
Right. But here's another tip.
Okay.
When possible, provide a specific reason for the limitation.
Okay.
Just adds to the authenticity and helps people understand why they need to act fast,
Mm.
So instead of just saying sale ends tonight, you could say sale ends tonight as we make room for new inventory.
That's a great tip, yeah.
Yeah.
It makes it feel less like a marketing gimmick and more like a genuine reason for the urgency.
Exactly. Remember, we're not trying to trick people. We're trying to provide them with, valuable information that helps them make a decision.
Right.
And speaking of valuable information, let's talk about how you can combine these tactics with another powerful psychological principle. Social proof.
Ooh, yes, social proof. That is huge. People are so much more likely to buy something if they see that others are buying it too.
Right.
So how do we incorporate that into our urgency strategy?
Well, one way is to use real-time activity notifications on your product pages.
Okay.
These are those little pop-ups that say things like Sarah from California just purchased this item.
Right.
Or 3 people have this in their cart right now.
Oh yeah. I've definitely seen those, and they always make me do a double take.
Right.
It's like instant validation.
Yes.
That I'm making the right decision.
Exactly. They create that I don't want to miss out feeling, and you can even take it a step further.
Okay.
By combining low stock indicators with customer reviews.
Oh, interesting.
If a product has limited stock and high ratings, it signals that it's both amazing and about to be gone.
Right.
It's like a double whammy of scarcity and social proof.
Okay, so make sure those reviews are front and center.
Yes.
Especially for products that are running low on stock.
Got it.
Right.
But what about those dreaded sold out products?
Yeah.
Is there any way to leverage those to drive sales even if the product isn't currently available?
Believe it or not, yes.
Okay.
sold out products can actually be a great opportunity
Okay.
to capture potential sales and build anticipation for future, releases.
Okay.
You can do this through strategic waitlist management.
Wait lists. Okay, I'm intrigued. How does that work? Well, instead of just showing a sold out message,
Right.
you can give people the option to join a wait list.
Okay. Yeah.
To be notified, when the product is back in stock. And to make the wait list even more, effective, you can show the size of the wait list to create, more social proof.
Yeah.
Something like join 235 others waiting for this item.
That's smart. Yeah.
Yeah.
It creates that feeling of exclusivity and makes people feel like they're part of something special.
Exactly. And when the item is back in stock, you can send out those back in stock notifications with a strong sense of urgency.
Yeah.
The item you wanted is back, but quantities are limited.
For sure.
It's a great way to re-engage those customers who might have missed out the first time around.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. We've talked about, the psychology behind scarcity, different types of limited time offers, countdown timers, limited stock indicators, social proof, and even waitlist strategies.
Yeah.
But before we move on to the next part of our deep dive, I want to remind our listeners that this show is powered by Growth Suite.
Growth Suite.
It's an amazing Shopify app that can help you implement all of these tactics with ease.
Absolutely. Growth Suite, it makes it easy to create and manage those smart discount campaigns that can really, really boost your sales.
So if you're ready to start, leveraging the power of scarcity in your Shopify store, head over to the Shopify App Store and give Growth Suite a try.
You can test it for free on your Shopify store.
Yep.
Just land on the Shopify App Store now and test it for free.
It's a game changer for sure.
For sure.
All right. Well, we'll be back in a flash with the second part of our deep dive. Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Welcome back. And before the break, we were talking about how to leverage wait lists for those sold out products, and sometimes even a sold out message.
Right.
It can actually help you drive sales, especially in the world of like those exclusive product drops.
Oh yeah, those product drops, they can generate so much hype. But I've always wondered, like, how can smaller Shopify stores, create that same level of excitement without having a massive brand following,
That's a great question, and the answer really lies in understanding.
Yeah.
What makes those exclusive drops so successful? It's not just about limited quantities. It's about creating a sense of anticipation and exclusivity.
Okay, so how do we do that? What are the key ingredients for like a killer product drop?
First and foremost, you need to build anticipation, before the actual launch.
Okay.
Tease the product,
right,
with some behind the scenes content, maybe
Yeah.
on social media. Show, sneak peeks of the design process or the materials you're using.
Okay.
You can even allow people to, sign up for early access or exclusive notifications about the drop.
So it's all about creating that buzz and making people feel like they're in the know, they're part of the VIP club.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then when you're getting closer to the launch date,
Yeah.
clearly communicate the limited nature of the products,
Right, yeah.
Highlight the unique features, the craftsmanship, the story behind the collection.
Right.
Make it feel special and exclusive.
I love that. Yeah. Even smaller Shopify stores can use this approach by releasing like limited edition versions of their most popular products, or offering, special colorways or collaborations.
Absolutely. The key is to create a sense of scarcity and desirability,
Yeah.
That makes people feel like they need to be part of the drop.
Okay, so we've talked about limited time offers, countdown timers, limited stock indicators, social proof, wait lists, and exclusive product drops.
Yeah, a lot of stuff.
Phew.
Yeah.
Is there anything else we need to consider when it comes to implementing these tactics?
Well, we we can't forget about mobile optimization.
Oh, right.
I mean, we live in a mobile first world, right?
Right.
And a huge chunk of e-commerce traffic comes from, smartphones.
Yeah.
So you need to make sure that your urgency tactics, they're just as effective on smaller screens.
Right, because what looks great on a desktop might be completely overwhelming
Right.
or difficult to navigate on a phone.
Exactly. So when you're designing your urgency elements, for mobile,
Yeah.
prioritize the most important ones,
So,
and make sure they're visible without requiring too much, scrolling.
so no tiny buttons
Yeah.
no. Or fiddly countdown timers that
Yeah.
are like impossible to tap on a phone.
Exactly. And always test your pages on different devices
Yeah.
to make sure that the experience is smooth and seamless,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of screen size.
Testing is key. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, what about push notifications?
Yeah.
Those seem like they could be, really effective for creating a sense of urgency on mobile.
They absolutely can be. Push notifications, they give you that direct line of communication with your customers.
Right.
Right on their phones.
Mm.
You can use them to, announce flash sales, send countdown reminders, or even alert people when a product that they've wish listed is back in stock.
Oh, I love those back in stock alerts.
Yeah.
It's like a little shopping fairy, reminding you that you can finally get that item you've been eyeing.
Exactly. And the beauty of push notifications is that, you can personalize them, right?
Yeah.
A message that says, "Hey, the jacket you viewed is now 30% off, only 3 left in your size," is going to be way more effective than a generic, sale announcement.
Okay, I'm convinced. Yeah, push notifications are a must-have.
Yeah.
For any Shopify store that
Yeah.
wants to leverage, mobile urgency.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, how do we know if all of these tactics are actually working?
Yeah.
What should we be measuring to track our success?
That's a great question. You need to track the right metrics to truly understand the impact of your urgency tactics.
Okay.
We're talking, conversion rate, average order value, time to purchase,
Mm-hmm.
cart abandonment rate, and even your return rate.
So look beyond just the immediate sales.
Yes.
We want to see like the full picture.
Exactly. For example, if a tactic, it increases conversions,
Right.
but it also leads to a higher return rate.
Yeah.
It might not be, sustainable in the long run.
Right.
You want to find that sweet spot
Yeah.
where you're driving sales without compromising, customer satisfaction.
That makes sense. So we're tracking our metrics. We're A/B testing different approaches. But what about getting feedback directly from our customers?
Yeah, customer feedback is invaluable.
Yeah.
It can give you insights that no amount of data analysis can reveal.
Oh.
You can use post-purchase surveys, monitor social media comments, or even reach out to customers directly,
Right.
for their thoughts on your urgency tactics.
So we need to keep our ears open and listen to what our customers are telling us.
Absolutely. And remember, the goal here is not to trick people
Right.
into buying something they don't want.
No.
It's about providing them with helpful information and a positive, shopping experience.
I love that. Yeah. It's all about using these tactics ethically and authentically
Right.
to enhance the customer experience.
Exactly. And that brings us to an important point,
Okay.
The ethics of scarcity marketing.
Right. There's a fine line, I think,
Yes.
between creating genuine urgency, right?
Right.
And being, manipulative.
Yeah.
So how do we walk that line
Yeah.
and make sure we're using these tactics responsibly?
Transparency is key,
Yeah.
Never create false scarcity or use, deceptive countdown timers that reset for each visitor.
Right. Yeah. Don't make people think something is about to sell out when it's not.
No.
That's just bad business.
Exactly. It might work in the short term, but it will damage your brand's reputation in the long run.
Okay, so be honest, be transparent.
Yes.
What else should we keep in mind?
Think about the overall customer experience, You want to help people make decisions, not not pressure them
Yeah.
into buying something they might regret later.
So don't like bombard them with urgency messages on every page.
Exactly. Use these tactics, strategically and sparingly, and always focus on providing value
Yeah.
to your customers.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
From the psychology behind scarcity to the specific tactics, you can use to boost sales on your Shopify store.
Right.
All while staying true to your brand and treating your customers with respect.
Absolutely. And before we wrap up this section,
Yeah.
I want to emphasize that one of the most effective ways,
Yeah.
to implement these tactics is to use a tool like Growth Suite.
Yes, Growth Suite. It makes it so easy
It does.
to create and manage all sorts of, scarcity-driven campaigns, from flash sales and limited time offers to countdown timers and low stock alerts.
It's a game changer for any Shopify store owner,
Yeah.
who wants to leverage the power of urgency and scarcity,
Yeah.
without the hassle of complex coding or design work.
So if you're ready to take your Shopify sales to the next level, head over to the Shopify App Store and give Growth Suite a try.
You can test it for free on your Shopify store.
Yeah.
Just land on the Shopify App Store now and test it for free.
You won't regret it.
You won't.
All right, we'll be back in a moment with the final part of our deep dive.
Yes.
Stay tuned for more, actionable insights and practical tips. Welcome back to the Conversion Bible.
Yeah.
I feel like we've covered so much ground already, but I'm excited to dig even deeper into how to make these scarcity tactics really, really sing.
Yeah, you're right. We've talked a lot about like the why behind scarcity and the key tactics, but now let's kind of like bring it to life with some examples. Seeing how other stores have used these principles successfully, it can spark some serious inspiration.
Okay, I love a good success story.
Right.
Hit me with some case studies that'll get those creative juices flowing.
All right. Let's start with a fashion boutique that was struggling to, stand out in a crowded online marketplace.
Sure.
They decided to experiment with like 48-hour flash sales, incorporating, countdown timers right on their product pages.
Okay.
And displaying like real-time inventory levels for their most popular items.
Sounds like a recipe for some serious FOMO.
Right.
Did it work?
It did. They saw a whopping 300% increase in conversion rate, during those flash sales.
Wow.
A 27% higher average order value compared to their regular sales, and even better, a significant reduction in their marketing costs.
Wow, those are some impressive results. What do you think was like the key to their success?
They were strategic about combining a few different tactics,
Okay.
First, they offered early access to their email subscribers, right?
Okay.
Giving those loyal customers a chance to snag the deals before anyone else.
Yeah.
Then they introduced that public countdown timer,
Yeah.
creating that sense of urgency for everyone else. And finally, by showing the dwindling stock levels, they tapped into that fear of missing out.
Smart move. It's like a perfectly orchestrated symphony, of scarcity, each element playing its part to drive those conversions.
Right.
Okay, I'm ready for another success story. What else have you got?
All right, this next one features a home goods store that wanted to, create some buzz around their new product releases.
Okay.
Instead of just launching new items quietly, they decided to build, anticipation with quarterly limited edition collections.
Right,
yeah. They created a sense of, exclusivity by offering like pre-launch wait lists.
Yes.
and teasing, behind the scenes content to get people excited.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Creating that like insider feel.
Yeah.
It can be so powerful.
Yeah.
Did they see a return on all that effort?
Absolutely. Their limited edition collections consistently like sold out within 24 hours.
Wow.
of launching.
Okay.
And they built a community of loyal fans who eagerly awaited, each new release.
I mean, that's fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah.
It really shows that scarcity can work, across different industries,
Yeah,
from fashion to home goods.
right.
But I imagine the approach might need to be tailored, depending on the types of products you sell, right? What about a store selling like luxury items?
Yeah.
Like blaring countdown timers,
Yeah.
might not quite fit the vibe.
You're exactly right. For luxury products, it's less about, screaming like sale
Yeah.
and more about emphasizing, exclusivity and craftsmanship.
Right.
Instead of focusing on discounts, you could use phrases like limited edition of 100 or crafted with rare materials.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's about creating that aura of prestige,
Right.
and making people feel like they're getting something truly, truly special.
Exactly. Think about like a high-end watchmaker
Yeah.
releasing a limited edition timepiece, They wouldn't shout about a discount, but they would highlight the rarity of the materials, the intricate craftsmanship,
Yeah.
and the fact that only a select few, will ever own this watch.
Makes sense. It's about playing up the inherent value and desirability of the product itself.
Yes.
Okay, so we've got luxury covered.
Yeah.
What about consumable products?
Yeah.
Things that people need to replenish, regularly.
For consumable products, you could focus on creating bundles,
Okay.
or subscription offers.
Mm-hmm.
With limited time incentives. Think like stock up and save 20% for the next 48 hours.
Yeah.
Or subscribe now and get a free gift before this offer expires. You can also leverage, seasonal changes or limited edition flavors to create a sense of like natural urgency.
That makes sense. Like pumpkin spice lattes in the fall.
Right.
Everyone knows they're only, around for a limited time.
Yeah.
So they rush to get their fix before they disappear.
Exactly. It's about tapping into those seasonal cravings.
Yeah.
And the fear of missing out on those limited time flavors.
Okay, so we've talked about, luxury and consumables. What about digital products?
Yeah.
Where there are no physical inventory constraints.
That's a great question, and it highlights how versatile these principles can be, right?
Okay.
For digital products, you can offer limited time bonuses
Okay.
that expire after a certain date.
Okay. Yeah.
Think like get lifetime access to this online course before the price increases next week.
Right. Right.
You can also use like time limited cohort based programs.
Mm-hmm.
Where enrollment, opens and closes at specific times.
So even though the product itself is digital and readily available, you're creating scarcity around like the bonuses and the access.
Precisely. It's about finding, creative ways to introduce those elements of exclusivity and urgency,
Yeah.
even in a digital context.
Well, this is all starting to click.
Good.
But
Yeah.
let's say someone is listening to this and they're feeling like overwhelmed, right?
Yeah.
They're excited about these tactics, but they don't know where to start. What advice would you give them?
I'd say start small.
Okay.
And focus on one or two tactics.
Okay.
That align with your brand, and your audience.
Right.
Don't try to like implement everything at once.
Okay. So pick a lane,
Yeah.
and really focus on making those tactics shine.
Exactly. And remember, it's an iterative process.
Right.
Test different approaches.
Yeah.
Gather data, get feedback from your customers, and refine your strategy over time.
Data is king, right?
Yes.
But even with all the data in the world, it's important to remember that these tactics are most effective when they're used ethically and authentically.
Couldn't agree more. Scarcity and urgency can be incredibly powerful tools for driving, sales and creating excitement.
Yeah.
But they should never be used to, manipulate or pressure customers.
Right. It's about building trust and creating a positive, shopping experience.
Yeah, exactly.
Not tricking people into buying something they don't want.
And what makes, implementing these tactics even easier?
What's that?
Using a tool like Growth Suite.
Growth Suite.
It's like having a secret weapon
Yes.
in your arsenal for creating those clever discount campaigns
Yeah.
that really get results.
Growth Suite takes all the hassle out of setting up, those countdown timers, those low stock alerts, all those other, urgency boosting elements.
Yes, it does.
And the best part is you can test it out for free, on your Shopify store.
Exactly. Just head over to the Shopify App Store and give it a try.
So there you have it, folks. The power of scarcity.
Unlock.
Unlocked.
Yes.
Remember, it's not just about limited time offers, and countdown timers.
Yeah.
It's about understanding the psychology, behind why these tactics work, and using that knowledge to create a strategy that feels authentic, exciting and beneficial to your customers.
Absolutely.
Start small, test continuously, and never stop learning. And of course, don't forget to check out Growth Suite on the Shopify App Store.
Yes.
It's your secret weapon for taking your scarcity game to the next level.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time on the Conversion Bible.
See you next time.